Welcome to our chapter meeting on Zoom for October. And as you can see here, anybody that hasn't been on this sort of webinar version before, we do have an opportunity for you to ask questions as we go through with our guest speakers, which we'll get to here in 2 or 3 minutes. And you can ask the questions in the raise hand box. You can, in the question box. You can upvote them if you see somebody else's questions, get them moved to the top and that type of thing. So if you have questions, hopefully most of them are for Kent and Harvey. I've got a few for the guys here myself that were submitted to you or from you, by email when you signed up. And there's a couple of other generic questions for the club, which again, please feel free to ask questions for the club as well. And one of us will try to answer either in the chat box or live. So let's just jump right into it. Have to excuse me here, I'm suffering through some pretty bad allergies, so my voice may be a little bit off. Excuse me. So as we normally do, here's a little bit of an update on what's happening with the club growth. As you can see, we've really grown dramatically. The last couple of months, it's been like this. 45 new dues paying members since back in September, 950, we're up to 985, and it seems to add a few almost every day. On Facebook, again, we're growing our private Facebook group, which is just for club members, on Twitter and on Instagram. And the whole idea is for those 3 platforms is to help create awareness about the club, and also especially on Facebook where people can interact back and forth. But we believe that social media is really helping us create awareness and get all the information out there about the club so people will know about us and they want to join. We do have our trash bins and we're getting people seeing those. We've even put one up in the new Innisfil or Barrie location that some of you may have seen. And so we're getting exposure there as well. Just going to give you a quick overview, but many of you were probably at our drive-in event, which went very well back last month. I think it was on the 25th. As you can see, there's our sign. They actually had a welcome sign. There's some people at the drive-in, and then I'm there on the right-hand side interviewing. In that particular case, it's Mark Nilsson from Excellence Auto Body. We had about 103 Tesla cars there, and probably double that in members and families. I think it went fairly well. Probably not the greatest movie selection in the world, and we're going to try to work on that a bit more going forward. But we're trying to please everyone and have a movie that's pleasing for full families so that they can maybe leave it necessarily after the first movie and have something that's more appropriate in the second. And I know that's not always perfect for everyone, but we welcome your suggestions going forward. And I think it went very well. You probably saw us doing some videoing there, and that's what I'm doing in the picture on the right, interviewing Mark. We're going to have, I've seen the first couple of videos already. We'll have an overview of the video that we'll put on our website and give you a notice of it. There's also going to be some blurbs from people who work behind the scenes with the Owners Club and the sponsors, as you can see me doing there with Kent. As always, want to make sure we thank our sponsors who help the club basically with all our expenses and costs. And this is the first time at the drive-in that we had some sponsors there with us. There was 3 sponsors there in person and 4 participating. We also had some draws, and we did a social media photo draw, and there were some winners there. Again, it's all been on social media and also in the newsletter. If you haven't seen the newsletter, have a look in your inboxes because it was sent out. There's the second page. So lots of sponsors, lots of different types of varying companies and what they offer us. So make sure you have a look, but I want to give them a really good shout out for supporting the club. And that's really all I've got because I know my voice is not going to last. So the main content today is we have Kent Rathwell and Harvey Socher, who are going to be, that's a picture of them on the left in sunny Victoria, BC. Kent is the founder of Sun Country Highway, as it says here. He helped save the electric car, designed and built clean and sustainable supply chains in Saskatchewan. He built the world's longest green highway, putting charging stations from Victoria, BC, right through to St. John's, Newfoundland. And he drove a Tesla Roadster from coast to coast in the winter, promoting global climate initiatives and much more. And Harvey's going to join Kent in discussing their trip across Canada on install free-to-use Sun Country Highway EV charging stations, which is what Kent has put up. And I know some of the people perhaps watching today have been involved with Kent in the early years and actually took part in some of the challenges to go, across Ontario or across different provinces using the Sun Country Highway. And Kent is a real pioneer. And so we wanted to jump right in. And Harvey, we don't know much about you, so we're going to give you the opportunity to talk. So maybe both of you give us a little bit of an overview of what you're all about, and then we'll jump into your presentation. So hopefully we've got your audio and video working. I can see you on my screen, Harvey. So I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Just jump right in.
Can you see mine okay, John?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
You should turn your screen around. Flip face the other way so that people can see your face, Ken.
My screen.
Well, you can't see your face because the background is very bright. So I think if you turn your whole self around, you'd see yourself better.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's okay. So sorry about that, guys. But it got bright out here. So anyway, yes. So nice to be on. Originally, when I jumped into this space, a lot of it was based upon, my trip to Palo Alto and the fact that Tesla wasn't really rolling out infrastructure, didn't really have a plan for it. They were just trying to survive and sell the Roadster inventory and hopefully get enough deposits out there and get their stock price up so that people could invest into them and they could stay alive. Because at that point, Elon had already put his last 25 mil in, and they were just trying to make something happen. So my comment to them was, so that's like building a gas car with a gas stations. Good luck. I'll take the Roadster, but you guys are history. So
a lot of people probably don't even realize, some of the newer members, that back in the early days, certainly Roadster days and the first I think 6 months or 8 months of the Model S, we weren't even aware that a supercharger network was going to exist. So it was certainly unfaked. So you were a real pioneer back then.
Well, a lot of it was just to make sure Tesla survived, right? Period, full stop. And so we electrified the Trans-Canada in the first year and did all of Vancouver Island, making them the first island in the world to be 100% EV friendly. So you could travel the whole island in a 100% electric vehicle with zero tailpipe emission and for free. And then we did PI as the first province, state, or nation in the world where you could travel the whole in a zero emission vehicle for free. And then we did the Trans-Canada Highway. So we had electrified all those areas in a matter of 8 months flat. And then we drove it in the 9th month, which was in the middle of the winter. We're 10,000 kilometers and in little Tesla Roadster, right? So I don't know if many of your members have seen one, but they're only a few inches off the ground, and it was highly unusual to see a vehicle like that driving across the country in the middle of a winter. But the whole idea was to message globally that an electric cars exist, because at that point no one really knew of Tesla globally. It took me a long time searching for an electric car to come upon them. But nobody knew that there was an electric car. Nobody knew that they could be fast, or that they could be sexy or beautiful. That they could actually travel long distances and in cold climates, and on an infrastructure that was already installed, and on an infrastructure that would allow them to travel, a few 100% faster charging than what the standard electric vehicle association or the automotive automakers agreed to, which is 40 amp level 2 charger, and the electrical association set a standard at 40 amps, which was going to kill the electric car, not help it, in regards to long distance travel, because it would take 12, 16 hours to charge a car at that if you wanted to go any distance. So, however, 40 amp chargers were okay in the city, but, electric cars in the city wasn't going to save the electric car. The electric cars had to travel. They had to deal with, the extreme cold and the extreme heat. They had to be fast and sexy, and they had to be very inexpensive to travel. So my theory behind it was that, the electric car died for, say, 140 years because 2 main points. No one allowed them to travel long distances, and no one allowed them to travel for free. So that's really what we did in 2012, and we allowed not just an electric vehicle, but an automobile to travel across, one of the largest countries in the world, across the widest part of North America, and travel it for free. So with that message, I figured that the electric car would be saved. There was no putting it back in the bottle. Once you proved that electric cars could travel for free, but also that they were really fast and really sexy, nicer than most people's cars. And really could travel, and charge up for the price of a Starbucks coffee, basically, right? Like a premium coffee. So in our model, although people said it wasn't possible to be sustainable to offer free EV charging, most of our host locations still offer it. 9 years later, they're still offering free EV charging, and then we convinced Tesla to roll out the destination program, something similar, and to our program, because they needed chargers if they wanted to sell cars, and they needed to be able to travel, and they had much deeper pockets than I did. So especially because I had all my Tesla stock, I had basically cashed it out to be able to give away free EV chargers around the world, across Canada, which Canada was a world leader at that time, because you couldn't even travel across Canada, but you could travel across all of Canada, all of North America, through this country, and in a lot of other areas. So then we did the following year, we did about 99% of all Canadians. We connected them with our Sun Country Highway Charging Network, which is all free to use, and then we rolled out into the States, into Washington, Oregon, and California, and then that basically allowed EVs to travel conveniently, even in the States. So that's really the message, behind Sun Country Highway, is to really bring people together to change the world, and I think we've done that on a lot of fronts. We won some various national awards and various world awards, and the goal was just trying to shatter those main myths. The main reasons why electric vehicles didn't really get a foothold for well over a century, but also prove that a pay it forward model could work. And a lot of people do charge up at locations, and they charge up for free, and they use a few bucks, but they might spend $20 or $50 or $100 or $500 at that location charging up the car. And so Best Western has been one of our biggest partners, I should say, because they came out early and really put in a lot of chargers at their locations. So again, I couldn't expect anybody to buy these things. I just wanted to just give them away for free, so there was no excuse to not put them in.
Okay, just for some clarity, you're saying that you funded the actual charger installations at these hosts that you lined up yourself, and in return they just had to commit to let you put one in and offer the electricity for free. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the model, because at that time, it's hard to fathom how early that was, but more people, vastly greater numbers of people globally believed in the UFOs than they did electric cars. The greater numbers had seen UFOs more so than they've seen electric cars. So it was that crazy, right? And it would have been a lot easier to really install UFO landing sites at these hotels and restaurants and such, because more people believed in them than electric cars. So, and a lot of people that did install, that we did get them to, we got the host locations, put the chargers in, they did it because it was the right thing to do. They never expected to see an electric vehicle show up, let alone mine. And that was pretty inspiring, because the strategy is this would not work. Didn't matter how much money I threw at it. It would not work if we didn't find really, inspiring and empowering people and champions of change and people that wanted to do the right thing and pay it forward. If we didn't find those in every community going across the Trans-Canada Highway, then we would have, failed in our mission, right, globally. And the reason that I threw everything at it was because I figured the electric car would die if somebody didn't, as it had for well over 100 years. And so the reason we did all of Vancouver Island was to help do a test. So when we launched the Vancouver Island, we drove the whole island and did media events and that sort of thing. And there's some, it's a big island and there's some hills there. So it took it was about a 7-hour straight travel from south to north. And then we did PEI to prove that that's possible and test it out, because we didn't want to have any mistakes when we were doing it in the middle of the winter across the Trans-Canada. So I actually had 2 Tesla Roadsters. I had one in a trailer, which had followed us, which was following. And within 5 minutes of me noticing a problem in the car, I would have already been in the other car driving down the road. Like it was really set up as like a NASCAR type swap. There's a lot went into it. It wasn't sort of a crazy frivolous type thing. It was really, the goal was to create zero emission transportation, allow the whole world to see it in all different languages and scripts, where the media did cover us globally in that. And it was tremendous. And really the whole world, could understand that, hey, electric cars were really beautiful and fast and sexy, and they could, with zero tailpipes, so zero tailpipe emissions. They could travel the country and all of Canada, all of North America in the middle of the winter and for free. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. It's out and there's no stopping it, right? So, but the reason we kept going beyond that, the next year was the backup plan was, well, if we had 99% of all Canadians connected with free to use EV infrastructure and Tesla disappeared, then somebody around the world would hopefully build an electric car and come to Canada to build it, because, hey, it's the only country in the world that the infrastructure is actually in, and it was actually free to use. And so that was the backup plan in case Tesla failed.
Well, and Kent, here's a question, and feel free, either you or Harvey, you can look in the Q&A yourself, but I'll ask this one. This is Keith Beckley, who, by the way, is probably one of our first members that's driving the 2021 refreshed Model S. So congrats, Keith. But Keith says, thanks very much, Kent, for Sun Country Chargers allowed me to venture farther from home in 2013. He's curious about the difficulty in keeping chargers working and available. Companies other than Tesla seem to struggle with this even today.
Yes. So, thank you for joining the movement so early. There really wasn't, hardly any electric vehicles available. Like we had to buy all of ours from the States, for the first couple of years. But yeah, so number one, it's reliability. So, when I told Tesla what I was going to do, number one, they didn't believe it. Number two, they said, well, do you want to meet our CEO? And it's like, no, he just told me that he's trying to save your company and you guys are out of money and he's out of money and you're trying to sell your inventory to survive. So no, and I got to figure out, what EV infrastructure looks like and figure out, how it all works. So show me what one of these charging things looks like. Right. So like it was sort of a panic type situation, but I had I didn't think I needed to do this, but obviously they weren't going to, and they were going to disappear as far as I was concerned. So that's why I came back and sold off a ton of stuff and basically put it all in Tesla stock, and then just cashed out as we needed to fund this rollout. So, but part of that was my question was, okay, once I learned what a charger was, then it was like, okay, well, where can I get these built? And I want the most reliable, most durable charger that will work in the middle of the worst climate in the world. Don't need any bells and whistles. It doesn't need to be sexy. It just needs to work in -40 and in +40. So that's really where I went, and then I had to convince them to build me one of these things, because the 100 amp charger didn't make any sense to anybody at that point, right? And it was it's sort of crazy how it didn't, but anyway, it didn't. With our model initially, like it wasn't a long term, it wasn't the business model was to save the electric car. That's it. It wasn't about or to return of financial, financial return. It was about a moral return, an environmental return on this initiative, right? So that's where a lot of people had a hard time understanding what we were doing, or what I was doing, I guess. But the return is far greater than financial, because financial was never a part of the equation for a business model. It was more so of well, if we don't solve the electric vehicle issue, we don't solve climate change, we don't get battery storage, and we don't go to the next levels, which is really what I was all about. It wasn't just about saving the electric car. It was about, you know, creating battery storage. And the only way to get battery technology to move forward, or to create disruption in battery technology, was to create a very tangible demand, which was the electric car. And if the electric car could potentially survive, then that would drive battery prices down. Getting them into grid storage would help drive battery prices down. That would help drive the price of cars down, you know, EVs down, and then eventually everybody can afford electric car, and eventually we'll have 100% zero emission electrical grids. So then that wipes out about 50% of the climate emissions globally, and then the other things, such as manufacturing, processing, distribution, value chains, food production, that sort of thing. I already did that. So we already did all zero emission, you know, proved that all those could be zero emission. So it was really about just making sure that the electric car survived, so that would drive down battery prices to create grid storage was the strategy. So long story short, where I'm going with this is there wasn't a long-term business strategy to roll these chargers out. So, you know, we just gave these chargers away with zero legal agreement, zero anything, right? You know, like they were theirs. It was their asset. It was going on their balance sheet. It wasn't ours. Because if that was the case, we would have never got it done, because then it would have brought in lawyers and partners and, you know, council members and this sort of thing. So
you did for, I think, what, 40, 60, 80, and 100 amp?
Yeah. So, well, the 40 was created before. It was creating the bigger ones. So, you know, the idea for speed was to be able to go right up to 100 amp chargers, right? And put them in at, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100 amp increments. The problem was, so the design was a 100 amp charger that we could program down. Down to any limit that would fit the breaker size of the panel of that location. The problem was that the Tesla Roadster doesn't recognize a 100 amp charger. So we needed to program them all starting at 90 and then moving down, because at 100 amp charger, the Roadster wouldn't even work, right? Won't even charge you know, at any rate. So that was really the strategy there. So it was to fill whatever breaker panel, you know, whatever breaker, maximum breaker was available. Because we wanted, you know, charge time of like a 90 amp charging, we could do, you know, 3.5 hour charge time, you know, so I could do 1,000 kilometers a day in the Roadster. You know, it's a long day, but I could do it back then because they were 90 amp chargers, but the standard in North America was a 40. So to give you an idea, the 40 amp charger, if we went to a 60 from a 40, we cut the charge time of the vehicle down by 50%, by half. When we went from a 60 to a 90, we cut the charge time of the vehicle down by half again. So like it was substantially faster. It's just not like, you know, 40 times 2 is 80 and a little bit more. It wasn't like that at all. You know, again, 40 to a 60, half the charge time, you know, 60 to a 90, half the charge time again. So it was a quarter of the speed. So something that would take, say, you know, 12 hours would be 3. And so that's really the secret sauce. But keeping, so because we gave all the chargers away for free and it was their asset, you know, it was really difficult to go back and force them to tweak the charger, fix them, that sort of thing. So the thing about our chargers was, the number one thing we started was reliability. You plug in, it works. There was no connectivity. There was no Wi-Fi, cellular, bells and whistles, which I could have put into it, but that wasn't the plan. The plan was to try to, you know, help save the electric car before Tesla died. And
where did the chargers come from?
Well, I got Clipper I commissioned
the
90 amp chargers, or the chargers with Clipper. Yep. And
try to label them basically.
Well, yeah, like again, they weren't selling chargers, you know, there's really nobody buying them at that point. And that was sort of my last, you know, way to get them, you know, was a monster check and saying, look, do you want the check or not? Because I'm doing this to save Tesla. If Tesla dies, you're dead too. So take my check, you know, and build me this guy, you know, because otherwise I'll buy cable sets and I'll put them on the charger myself, right? So, but ultimately, you know, it took quite a long time to get them convinced to build this, because it was asinine, right? To put a J plug on a 90 or 100 amp charger. So based upon the industry of the day. And so the reason I wanted a J charger was to allow all vehicles to travel, even though there really wasn't any. that could actually travel other than the Roadster. 100% electric.
And Ken, sorry, Dale Pennington is asking, are the chargers still in use today? And I know the answer is yes, but let's even quantify that and say, what percentage of the original network in your mind is still active? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, we're probably talking about 90, high 90s. So still working. So 8 years after the warranties expired, the chargers are still working, because those chargers only had a 1-year warranty on them. So our new chargers have 3 and 5 year warranties, but yeah, those original chargers only had 1-year warranties. So they're still working 8 years after the fact.
Wow.
Yeah. Some are working longer than 8 years after the fact, because our first ones went in February, March. In Ontario, hey, the Burke Steakhouse in Peterborough, that was our first charger in the world that we installed. That's because we electrified Ottawa to Toronto and then drove the whole distance. Funny, how we're talking long distance now, but it was a long distance, right? So we drove from Ottawa to Toronto in a 100% electric car, 100% for free. And we arrived at the Toronto Auto Show a day before the show started. And that went viral nationally. So, just with the national media, I don't know if it went far internationally, but that route between Ottawa and Toronto, traveling it, for the first time and for free, just blew up, in a zero emission electric car. And, the car, most people had never seen a Tesla before, right? Or heard of the company, let alone a Tesla Roadster. So, Tesla didn't have any other vehicles. So that was really it. But really, it's just the reliability of the systems, redundancies, put a lot of redundancies in those chargers, right? So they're pretty darn bulletproof, and they just and so we've been doing some tweaking, and they've been better. And then a couple of years after that, we actually got the chargers working, so they would come out at a 90 amp rate. And if you hit the button, so the green button would, the green light would flash. And if you hit the button, the stop start button once, then the button or the light would go solid green. And that meant that you're getting 100 kilowatts. So we did that once the Tesla Model S came out with the twin chargers, so that it could charge it at its maximum speed. The sad news is that Tesla's back down on their level 2 charging rate, which is really sad. But at the same time, I've been convincing a lot of other automakers to increase their level 2 charge rate from 40 way up. And that's been through a lot of their designers, engineers, leads, in the development of their vehicles. So as Tesla's been going down in their capacity to charge on level 2, the other car companies have been coming up. So hopefully we can get Tesla to go back up to 100 amp level 2 charging on all their chargers, because at that rate, you can offer free charging, right, as a business, but you can't really offer level 3 charging for free. So like in regards to Tesla's superchargers, the strategy was free EV charging again, because it worked. You can't stop the EV if people can travel for free. Plain and simple, it's coming. And so they did that with the destination program. They did it with level 3. And at the level 3 point, it's just like, hey, we got other things to do. You guys can deal with this yourself. So we didn't do a lot on the level 3 side.
So, we want to move on here because people are already asking about pictures and video and whatnot, but I'm just curious. And you said Tesla's dialed down, and I know that because I used to have a Model S or 2 of them with twin chargers. And now in my Model X, I can only get, I think it's 60 amps or something at the most. It's like 67 kilometers an hour. Any idea why they did dial them back? It makes, if Tesla can, if people can't charge at 100 amp chargers for free, right, then they need to use superchargers, and the superchargers, they're now charging fees for them, right? So it's more profitable for Tesla to not have high speed level 2 charging, and to get people onto their level 3 network to pay for the charge, right? Yeah, makes sense.
So now the official answer might be, it's cheaper to put a smaller onboard charger in there. Yeah, but the cars are still pretty expensive, for a Model, a Model S and X, you're still well over $100,000, for a lot of them. So, upwards of, I think 2, right? Close to it. So, a little bit of a bump in the onboard charger to 100 amp, like they used to have with my Model S, and I haven't got rid of it. Would allow people to travel for free, but they wouldn't need to go on the Tesla charging network and pay to use it as much, right? So, I'm not saying what the real answer is, but Tesla, we worked with them a lot, and so I'm I have to be careful of what I say, because their NDAs change every time I got there, and they were in depth. But ultimately, I can say that the referral program made a lot of sense. Why? Because hey, you know what? Allow people to take family, friends, and neighbors and total strangers for a rip in a vehicle. And if they buy one, then that person can maybe make a couple grand. And eventually, if they take enough people and enough people buy electric vehicles, they can pay for their vehicle. That made a lot of sense, right? But Tesla's basically went away from that, and the 100 amp chargers, that made a lot of sense. But and then even level 3, free charging made a lot of sense, and they've went away from that, and so they've went away from a bunch of really good things. I think it's really about stock value, to be honest. And once you get to a certain level, then people just expect to milk the cow till milk the cow as much as you can, right? And I'm from an agricultural background, right? So I was born and raised on the farm, and so my analogies go back to the farm. And on farms there's community, and other farmers help other farmers, and they work together as a community, and they help the people in town, and so it really is a true community, or it has been. And even in the rural areas of Canada, that's changing now. So you're losing that sense of community. So and that's where the Tesla owner clubs and the other EV owner clubs are really awesome, because you guys have really picked up the torch. Spread the word. You invested in vehicles that were really expensive, because if you didn't do that, then EVs would never be inexpensive. And the time and effort that you sacrifice away from your families, you get it, right? So you understand sort of what I did, and you get it because you do it sort of every day, every week. And so it's really cool to meet people from all over the world, from all the different types of EV associations that are actually picking up the torch and paying it forward, and really trying to make a difference. Because as far as I'm concerned, the EV associations are changing the world, and you don't see too many other groups like it. And when people get an EV, it's sort of the gateway drug to get solar, and to actually understand what a kilowatt is. And once you understand what a kilowatt is, then you can, then you want to zero emission your vehicle, right? And zero emission your home. And it really is the gateway drug to solving climate change. So. Okay,
well, let's fast forward. So tell us how Harvey got involved, or maybe Harvey wants to tell us himself, and then let's jump in and show people some of your pictures and video, and talk about your most recent trip, and tell us why you did that.
Okay, well, I'll cut in here. First of all, thanks very much for this opportunity to talk about this fast EV drive from St. John's, Newfoundland to Victoria, BC. A little history about myself. I'm retired now. I was in the ski and snowboard and golf industries, and basically sport industries, as an independent sales agent since October 77 to June of this year, or May of this year. And for the last 5 years, I would say I'm an electrical vehicle advocate. I was totally blown away by Elon Musk and his Tesla. And even though I didn't buy a Tesla, I did have a reservation for the Model 3 when it first came out. But I've always been an alternative fuel kind of guy, going from gas to propane to diesel. And when I heard about electric, I said, that's just the smartest, the most sustainable way to go. And I ended up buying an Audi e-tron for a number of reasons, but I'll be really quick about those reasons. One is my wife passed away 3 years ago. We were going to have two cars. One of them was going to be the Model 3, and the other one was going to be the car that she had, which was a Q5 Audi. She was getting newsletters about the e-tron because she was an Audi owner, and she would forward them to me. And when it time came for me to take delivery of the Model 3, my wife was, unfortunately, she died from cancer. And that was in June of 2018. In 2019, I decided to go for the e-tron because of the size. It was the perfect size for me. I didn't need two cars anymore. So the Model 3 was too small for my business. The Model X, I didn't really like the gullwing doors. I didn't like the price. And I was hoping that the e-tron would be lower in price, which it was. So I decided to go to the e-tron. And I'm really happy that I did, even though I'm talking to a lot of, obviously Tesla owners here. I still love, what Elon is doing. I think Tesla has by far been the biggest motivator for legacy automakers to get into the EV business. And if it wasn't for Elon, it just wouldn't have happened as quickly as it is now. And I'm really happy that Tesla has taken a strong lead, and I'm still a big fan of Tesla, so don't get me wrong. But I really do like my e-tron. It's been a great vehicle. I trusted it, knowing that the build quality and the overall luxury of the car would be great. And I didn't really have too many options. And my wife and I, we were going to take the Tesla Model 3 and drive all the way to Newfoundland, because neither of us had been to Newfoundland. We've been to every other province, and we thought it would just be a great trip. We would have been both retired at that time, and it would have been a great trip. Unfortunately, she did pass away in June of 2018. A year later, I ended up getting delivery of the e-tron from Audi, and I did the trip in her name. So her name was Marianne, and hence the name Marianne's Electric Drive. And the first trip was starting in the beginning of July 2019. I drove it all the way to Newfoundland, and I took not a direct route. I went all the way up to Prince Rupert through the Inside Passage, through northern BC. I'm a photographer, and I really enjoy taking photos of the beauty of Canada. And I knew I wanted to drive the Banff Jasper Highway. And so, and then take another opportunity of going through northern BC and through the Inside Passage, get some other great photos. And then, of course, photos along the entire route. One of the things that was important to me was to show, as an electrical vehicle advocate, that amongst other reasons, was the fact that I wanted to show that you can take an electric vehicle across the country, and not just on a short trip, but on a long trip. And I figured going across the country all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland was a long trip. And I have to take my hat off to my co-pilot, which is, of course, Kent Rathwell, who we just finished talking to you about the Sun Country Network. If it wasn't for his network, it would have been impossible for me to do the trip to start with. And so that trip was great. I did go back through the States, and the infrastructure in Canada was relatively minuscule compared to what it was in the States even 2 years ago. And of course, there was a lot of the Electrify America stations were accessible at that time, and it allowed my trip back so much quicker. And so that was a great trip. I got to know Kent even before I did the trip. So when it came to a second trip, it was more about seeing family and friends. I wanted to visit. I have three brothers that live in the East. I'm originally from Montreal. I have lots of friends in the ski, from my ski days, and people that I worked with, and of course my family that was mostly Ontario East. And so because of COVID, couldn't visit them. And I thought, okay, once everybody was getting double vaccinated, including myself and people that I was visiting, travel restrictions were being relaxed. So I thought, instead of flying and renting a car, which was hard to rent a car anyway, I just said, I'm just going to take my car and drive across the country and visit everybody. So that was really the main focus of my trip. And once I got to Newfoundland, and I already talked to Kent to ask him, do you know of anybody that would be a really good co-pilot for this trip? And Ken, why don't you answer that question? How did you become my co-pilot?
Yeah, well, I basically said, how how fast you want to do it. And, you know, if you want to, you know, create a world record and you want to, you know, blow it up and allow people to see how fast they can go and show that they can, you know, go faster than, you know, gas vehicle or whatever, then the co-pilot's me. So because, you know, I've done a lot of these, you know, deadline tours before, and, you know, a few hundred of them, you know, with media tours, you have to be there. And so you learn how to drive a different way in an electric car. So, yeah. And it was just awesome. You know, we just, you know, spent a few months, strategizing, going back and forth, and, you know, it worked out really well. So it was
yeah. Well, let me cut in here, because initially I was going to boot it right away from Mile Zero and go quickly across to St. John's in the summer, where you'd have more daylight hours, be safer. But Kent right away said it'd be much smarter if we did it after Labor Day, because you wouldn't have all the summer traffic that was which I did experience on the way. And it was the smartest decision, because I was able to take the time that I needed to visit my family and friends during the summer. I brought my golf clubs, you know, had a lot of great times playing golf, visiting people, you know, in the summer, which was warmer, longer days. And we just decided to do the trip, you know, after Labor Day. And we actually did it a week after Labor Day. And Kent flew out to St. John's, and we started the trip on the 13th of September. And so John, I was hoping that you could share the screen of that Polar Steps, and I can show some pictures of how we started. And yeah, he's going to start it. Okay, great. So click on the follow on Polar Steps photo journal. Great. And this was an app that I had found 2 years ago, and it actually allows me to take photos. And all of these photos get pinpointed on the map of where you're traveling. And in this case, North America, and specifically Canada. So if you click on the first picture there, yeah. And it shows, you know, the picture on the left. And if you click on that picture, you can kind of scroll up and down. Yeah, there you go. So this is Deer Lake, which is about 700 kilometers from St. John's. And we were doing a really good time. One of the things that I really have to stress, though, is that the infrastructure now versus when I first did the trip two years ago is 10 times better. And if it's not 10 times better, it's 20 times better. When I first went across Newfoundland, the only chargers that I could actually use were the Sun Country Highway, and now they have these new Newfoundland hydro stations that are 62.5 kilowatt power, which is not bad. And those chargers are put in by, it was powered by Newfoundland Hydro, but installed by the ChargePoint. And ChargePoint is a great company, and they had about 12 chargers across the Trans-Canada Highway from St. John's right to Port aux Basques, which is where we would take the ferry. And John, you can actually, I think, click on the pictures and make them bigger, I think. There we go. And you can scroll up or down there. So this is where we had dinner while the car was charging. And the next stop was Port aux Basques. And I think if you keep going to the next picture, you know, there's the Deer Lake, just to show that it was Deer Lake. And then the next picture, we're having dinner in Deer Lake. This is my brother. There's Kent, okay, on the right. And my brother Mel actually joined me the week before to visit Newfoundland. And he lives in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And he was our backseat driver. And he was great. He did a lot of errands for me while we were in St. John's, grabbing all sorts of things that we needed for the trip. And he lives in Fredericton, New Brunswick. So we were planning on dropping him off in Fredericton. So the next picture is one of the chargers that we used. And it was these were brand new chargers. I mean, they were only there for the last month or month and a half. and they worked flawlessly. They were so good. They were initialized in literally 10 to 15 seconds. And fortunately, we didn't have to wait. One of the benefits of going after Labor Day was that we didn't have any issues with. There's only one charger there. We could have been hooped because there may have been a car there ahead of time, but we stopped about three different times actually 4 different times going across Newfoundland, and it took me like 2.5 days to get across the first time, and this time it took us less than 12 hours. So that was great. We left at 9:30 in the morning, or 9:29 to be exact, and we got to Port aux Basques at about 9:45. So the next slide, if you keep going, is actually there should have been a slide prior to that in Port aux Basques.
I can't get underneath there. No, just a sec. Oh, there you go.
There we go. So that's charging up before we got on the ferry. And normally you have to be at the ferry 2 hours in advance. I did get a reprieve from the ferry company, Marine Atlantic, and it was Tina that I was talking to, and she was great. And she said, I said to her, if I could charge before, instead of waiting to get on the ferry, that would allow me to leave the ferry, with a full charge. So it allowed us to, because I knew this was ahead of time, I was able to leave an hour earlier and to save some time on the world record that we're trying to set. So we actually took about an hour to charge, and this was really key. And that's getting onto the ferry. And in the morning, which was the next day, and what was really nice was that we were able to get a full night's sleep in a stateroom. So the three of us got into this one stateroom, which had two bunk beds, and we had a great night's sleep instead of sleeping on the floor of the ferry. And because I knew that Kent and I would be sleeping in the car, because we were not planning to take any hotels, just sleeping in the car, driving, charging, driving all the way across Canada. So this is in the ferry, and the next slide, I think, is in the next morning, where we're outside the ferry getting some. There we go. So now it's a beautiful, nice, sunny day, and we're just landing into North Sydney, where we're going to take the Trans-Canada Highway once we get off the board. There's my brother and I. And I think there's a picture of Kent and my brother. Oh, Kent and myself. Yeah, very good. And then this was a great photo that Kent was actually driving here, and a rainbow was right in front of us about a half an hour after we left North Sydney. So this was just a great start of the trip in Nova Scotia. And we keep going on the trip. Yeah, that's good. Here we're getting into New Brunswick. And just in Amherst, there's kind of fun to see. There's a lot of other alternative sources, including wind power. And we stopped at the Audi dealer in Moncton, where we could get a charge. There they had a 50 kilowatt charger, and I just thought it would be good PR, since I'm driving an Audi, to stop at the Moncton Audi dealership. I've been there twice before, and the staff there are amazing. The general manager is named Scott, and he's right there with Kent and I. Kent actually had an opportunity to drive the new Audi GT, which is on my YouTube channel. So on Marianne's Electric Drive, which is the website that John is on right now, there's lots of links. One is to the Polar Steps, and one is to my YouTube channel. So there's lots of videos that I've placed, and I'll be uploading a lot more.
I'll jump in here just for a second. That Audi e-tron GT, the white one beside the vehicle there in that photo behind us, I did take it for a rip, and And again, Harvey did the review. So, but it was a really interesting drive. It was like driving the Roadster, but with refinement of, you know, 100-year-old car, 100-year-old car company, I guess. Right. So
yeah, it's a lot less time than the 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just like the Tesla Roadster with a very high end luxury refined vehicle. But it was light like the Roadster. It was a really weird drive. I've never experienced that before because, you know, the Roadster is just an incredible drive, the Tesla Roadster. Go ahead, Harvey.
Okay, yeah, and I haven't uploaded that video yet because I still have to edit it. But yeah, there'll be a video on that test drive that Kent did. So here's where I'm leaving my brother off to the side of the road. We actually got off the exit, and I'm just saying goodbye to him and thanking him for the time that he spent with me. And this is in just outside of Fredericton. That's his wife. And if you want, you can actually click the video and actually you can hear what we had to say. And I think you have to there's a link there to get the video out audio. There should be a little link to open up the video, the audio. There you go. Yeah, there it is. This looks like a okay. Anyway, I guess the videos don't show very well.
It was so great to spend time with this week. Just from a matter of time, yeah, we have to optimize it, but you have to go into some settings. So it's tough to do that.
Anyway, and that's ironic that there's 2 Sun Country Highway chargers where we dropped off my brother. Anyway, so continuing right along, we're on our we're coming to the first station. That's Petro-Canada. Now, all the stations that we went to were, this is a key moment here. All the stations that we went to up to that point were 62 kilowatts or 50 kilowatts. And this is the first one where my car could accept 150 kilowatts. So all the charging from just east of or just west of Fredericton all the way to BC to Victoria were all level 3 150 kilowatt chargers from Petro-Canada or from Electrify Canada. And this made the drive way, way faster because the length of time to charge was significantly lower, where in this case, I was charging I actually have a log that you can also download. And on that log would show the type of charger, how much power was being used, where it was, what was my odometer reading, how much time did it take to charge, what percentage of my battery was charged, and where it was charging. And that spreadsheet is on the website. There's a link to it. So we can show that later if you like. But these chargers made the trip so much faster. And I'm not sure if that video would work on your screen or not, but this is actually a fun little video. Okay, this charger is now pumping at 151 kilowatts. That's a record for our trip right now. And it's only been charging for 16 minutes, and we're going to leave it till 80%. And I'm guessing in about less than 10 minutes, or actually less than 5 minutes, we'll be at 80%. It's already at 70. Okay, this charger is now pumping at 151 kilowatts. That's a record.
Sorry, I just optimized the video, so hopefully it's a little bit better.
Oh yeah, that might be better there. Yeah.
So the next video hopefully will be a little bit better than that.
Yeah. Okay, Ken is finally here after coming into the bathroom. and we charge 5% more, then, you know, the car's been ready before he's ready. How cool is that? Okay, we're at 88%. I'm gonna pull the plug, okay?
That's good.
We're gone.
Take it out.
Okay, Ken is finally here after coming into the bathroom. Okay, so the funny thing is that the car charges faster than we can go to the bathroom and eat a snack. And it's just amazing how quick these charging was. And not only that, on my spreadsheet, I put down, you know, the prices as well. So for that charge, I mean, that was only Sydney Medante. Here we go. Was $6.25. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, the whole cost of the trip, for every charge that I made, worked out to $357.33. So I mean, you can't drive across the country, you know, for paying for gas or diesel, you know, cheaper, you know, than probably $2,000, and this was like $357.
Yeah, and this is a high performance SUV, right? This is not a little economy car, right? So this thing's a heavy piece of equipment. So it's pretty amazing. It's actually amazing that you know, that you can actually charge at that rate. I'm sure the rates are only going to go up because it's way too cheap, you know, with demand fees and whatnot. It's not sustainable at those numbers.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's great about this particular vehicle is, and one of the reasons why I purchased it was because it was lower in price than the Model X. It was a reliable vehicle in my mind, and also it could charge up to 150 kilowatts. And at the time that I purchased it, you know, most cars could only charge at the most 125 kilowatts. And the other thing that's great is that it maintains a maximum of 150 kilowatts right up to 80%. And even when it was coming down to, let's say, 85 or 90, or coming up to 85 or 90 or 100%, you know, it would still pump out at 100 kilowatts, 95 kilowatts, 70 kilowatts would be the most. I mean, it's still pumping at a really good rate. Here we're in Repentigny, just north of Montreal, and on our way to Ottawa. And it was downpour, and that time, I think it only took me 15 minutes for a charge there. But I just needed a little top up, and very rarely did we charge to 100%. Mostly we charged up to 80% or up to 70%. So in Ottawa, you know, we're just coming in early in the morning, and there was Electrify Canada station. There's Kent pulling the plug on that one, and there I think we had about 90% of we had about 90% of the battery done. Now, I did mention earlier that it was 90, that all the chargers after Fredericton were at 150 kilowatt, but there's an exception to that, and that was between Ottawa and Sudbury. There we went to an Ivy station, which was very reliable, and we were able to pump, you know, you know, we were there for about 25 minutes. Let's see here, Ottawa, Petawawa, yeah, 32 minutes there, and then we went to Mattawa, where there was a lot of problems with a lot of chargers around the between Petawawa and Sudbury, but I tried this weird company called which is right there, called Jules, and I talked to actually the owner of the company by fluke, really. He was on the customer service line, and he actually reserved a spot for us. I told him that we're on this, you know, mad dash across the country, and you know, I want to make sure that it's working. And when we actually got there, there was a Bolt from Quebec that was there, and we had the priority because we had the reservation, and it didn't really work right away. It took about 15 minutes to get it going, and even when it got going, it did pump at 50 kilowatts. But this station was interesting because it's geared for remote communities. This charger is actually one large battery that gets trickle charged from either a 110 or 240 volt, and it would get built up and then it would be used. And it would be great for communities that wouldn't have the availability, the access for high powered electric infrastructure. So it had a place in it, but I didn't really want to take a chance on some of these EV route chargers that just weren't functioning. So this one did work. It took a little longer time than I was hoping for, but it did get us to Sudbury, where if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we're in Sudbury. And oh yeah, this is what Kent was doing while we're driving to Sudbury. He was doing pretty good driving earlier, but and you'll also notice there's a tire in the back seat there. It's actually my back seat's folded down, but that's a real spare. That's not a one of those donut spares that are just you pump it up, or it's a smaller spare. It was the actual exact same tire and rim that was on my car, and if we would have had a flat, that would have ruined any chance of setting a good world record. Having a real spare made a big difference in peace of mind. We never had to use it, but that was great. Now, yeah, this is a great video here. Well, I think we have about 3,100 kilometers now put on the car since we left St. John's, and we're headed to Sault Ste. Marie. We're in Sudbury now, and the Petro-Canada chargers, other than the one in Rivière-du-Loup, have been working awesome. And I'm just going to show you, what you can see. There's the 97% from 3% in 37 minutes. Well, I think we have about 3,100 kilometers now put on the car since we left St. John's. Yeah, that's pretty much done. Yeah, so that's just some of the scenery around Sudbury. And really, there's beautiful scenery all throughout Canada. I mean, of course, I talked about the Banff-Jasper Highway in Alberta, and the scenery around Northern Ontario across the lakehead is absolutely beautiful, and it's great. Here we are landing in Wawa, Ontario. And I are at the Wawa, Ontario, at the Petro-Canada station, and we're pretty happy. Why, Kent?
Well, we were getting as high as 156 kilowatts off this charger. It's pretty crazy. Number one. Number two, they all work. So.
No, that's great.
And number three, it's around 11 o'clock p.m. So
yeah, so
yeah, they're all good.
Anyway, we've had a pretty good day. We only had one small hiccup, I think. What was that?
The second charger of the day. We were expecting up to 150 kilowatts of a new charger, and we actually got about almost 50, and then it dropped down to about 12. So that's not what we were expecting, but it's still early days. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's in Wawa. And then at night, there was another. Oh yeah, there was another charger. 2 o'clock in the morning in Terrace Bay, and I thought we would try the Ivy system, and I had tried the Ivy system before, but this time my credit card payments didn't authorize, even though my credit card is totally fine. And it took me about I don't know, a good 5-10 minutes to even find the charger. It's the first time I've been here, and it definitely wasn't easy to find. And once I got here, it just took another 10 minutes to get it going. And normally IV is like you get it started like within 30 seconds, but this time we've had some issues. But it's going now, and we're just going to get enough juice in the battery to get to the Petro-Canada, where we're going to get a 150 kilowatt charge. And that'll take us to maybe even as far as Ignace, but we may probably stop in Thunder Bay to get a really another 80% charge. Yeah, so that's the Ivy charger there. Okay, so in Thunder Bay, well, we actually got some great charges in Nipigon, where we got a super fast charge. It was going great, and then when we went to Thunder Bay, again, so fast. It was just, we got on the, off the highway onto the charger. Like the chargers were only in Nipigon was like literally right off the highway, and the same pretty much in Thunder Bay as well. And then the same again in Ignace, which is another 150 kilometers west of Thunder Bay. So there was nobody on the highway. It was all good. We got good speed, good timing. And it was really good going through Ontario.
Harvey, somebody's asked, I think you already answered this, but can you just confirm again how much the whole trip cost you in electricity?
Yeah, it was $357 and 33 cents. So $357.33.
I'll say here that Petro-Canada's chargers, they're actually right on the edge of the road, like Harvey said, where the Electrified Canada chargers were more in town a little bit. So in regards to pounding out a really short trip across the country, it would make more sense to hit the Petro-Canada chargers than the Electrified Canada chargers. Just because there's less city driving to get to. Typically the Canadian Tires is where the Electrified Canada chargers were at.
But let me ask you, I mean, you had some issues with 2 or 3 different brands or services of chargers, and we're hearing that in the community. Why do you think that is? Like, why do they not have the reliability that we really need at this point in time?
Well, they're new. It's new technology. It's why Sun Country didn't jump into level 3 right out of the gate, because for the first year or two, they were really not dependable at all. And so we didn't really want to leave anybody stranded out there. And just the connectivity of them, the way they're manufactured, there's a lot of issues with them. But they are coming along. Like this trip proves that, for the most part, you can travel across the country really quickly and continent in an electric vehicle, and there's some redundancies. Like we didn't stop at every charger, and there's a few different networks across the country. There's not one level 3 charging network that crosses the whole country. Petro-Canada goes from Victoria to Nova Scotia, same as Tesla. But there's nobody that actually covers all of Canada, including Newfoundland.
Were you guys aware, or did you use the Royal Bank Visa to get free charging at Petro-Canada?
Go ahead, Harvey.
Yeah, what happened was I thought that there was a big miscommunication with their marketing. Initially, like I received, I received a notification that if you link your RBC credit card to your Petro-Points, you can get free charging. And after looking through my bills, they were not getting reimbursed. And I called them, and they said, yeah, that wasn't the case. It had to be through, I think, one of their RBC Infinite cards or the Avion card, and one other card, like some sort of, there was one other card. They didn't make it clear. And as a result, I didn't get the free charging. But the thing is, it was still ridiculously low in price. So I didn't get too upset. And when I did call them back and say that they did mislead me, they actually were good enough to give me a $200 credit on my RBC credit card. They didn't have to do it, but I was pretty upset that I thought I was getting all this free charging, and I said I would change to my credit card, but promotion actually ended well before the time that this was happening. So I didn't contest it anymore. They gave me a $200 credit, and I'm still going to be using the Petro-Canada stations where I can, because you still get your 150 kilowatts of power. So, and it was still relatively inexpensive. So that's what happened there.
Guys, in the interest of time, I prefer if we could not to play every video here. Yep. So where do you think we should go from here, Harvey?
Well, I would say one of the highlights I think for our trip was exactly that picture right there. This was a station at the Petro-Canada in Medicine Hat where they had showers. I mean, there was a lot of Petro-Canada stations that had showers, but not always available to just the Joe public. Anybody can just use it for $10. You get a couple of towels and a shower, and it was great. And the time the car was charging, we got our shower in. That was great. Wow. That was in Medicine Hat, and that was the last night of our trip. So the first night, of course, was on the ferry. The second night was going through Quebec and into Ontario, into Ottawa. The third night was going across northern Ontario, and then the fourth night was going through Saskatchewan and into Calgary. So having that shower was great. We had the shower, of course, on the ferry, and so this was our second shower.
Amazing.
So that
Guys,
we wouldn't stick up the car.
Could you tell us if you found one charging network better than another from a price point of view, and which ones did you find were actually more available?
Well, the ones in Newfoundland, the only ones that were available were the ChargePoint ones, and they were very reasonable in price. I mean, if you rather than going through all the different charging networks, people can just go to my website, marianneselectricdrive.com, and download the spreadsheet. It'll tell you every single charging point, every single charge and price. All the details are there, including the road conditions and temperature, etc.
Okay, well, we'll share all that at the end. Great.
Yeah, but honestly, we obviously made it. We only had one issue with Petro-Canada, was in Rivière-du-Loup. It was only charging at 35 kilowatts. And then the other charging, like most of the chargers at Petro-Canada were at 150 kilowatts, which is great. The one in Medicine Hat was only pumping at 100, which is still great. I mean, we still didn't have to wait for the car. The car had to wait for us once we got out of our showers. So that was great. And then the Electrify Canada stations were amazing. We got full 150 kilowatts pretty much everywhere. One thing I did learn was that when we got into the Calgary station at the Deerfoot Park, or wherever, Deerfoot Center, it started off at 50 kilowatts, and I really was looking for 150 kilowatts. And I asked Kent to move the car to another station. There was 4 of them there, and the next one also was at 50 kilowatts. And when I phoned them for customer service, when I got through to them, which was like a minute later, she said, "What are you talking about? It's going at 150." And it was going at 150 kilowatt. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time because it was cold. It was like 2 or 3 degrees outside. And when the charger and the air in the car is cold, it takes a little bit of time to heat up and then get the full 150 kilowatts, which it did. So I learned something from that. And it was overall the charging infrastructure from both Petro-Canada and Electrify Canada, and the one from ChargePoint in Newfoundland, they all worked really, really well. And we really we had any issues we had were minor. Sometimes it didn't start right away. We would replug it in and then it would start again. So overall, it was good. And the other strategy that we had was we didn't want to come to a charger if we could help it with a very low kilometers on the battery. So if that charger wasn't working, we would be hooped. But once we got past Newfoundland and into Ontario, where there was usually two chargers that could be working, or Electrify Canada, they had 4 chargers that would be potentially working, would be great. This video here was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that's a good video. Play that one.
Yeah, this one here, Kent knew a good buddy that was in just outside of Banff.
You, Kent? Well, really nice to meet you. I'm sorry for the loss of Marianne.
Oh, thank you.
It's such an honor to be able to meet you guys here as you're going across the country.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Here's the... All right.
Oh, that's great.
It's the voting period, so we like to say in Banff, let's rock the vote.
Thank you very much.
2 more things.
All right.
Here's 2 freshly grilled breakfast sandwiches
Oh,
from the Wildflower. And here's 3 different species of mountain sage to give you a safe drive. I thought it'd match your color of your car, and some fresh washed berries in here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter.
Now I gotta take a little
Photo.
picture
Yeah,
of
for sure. Yeah,
you with it too. Maybe one little selfie.
That's easy. Yeah.
Nice to see you, Ken. It's been a while.
That's awesome.
So he heard we were crossing, and he reached out and said, "Hey, make sure you stop in Banff. I'll even bring you out fresh baked goods from his bakery." And he did that. He brought him right out to the road. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and once we got into Alberta, into Calgary, every charger that we used was the Electrify Canada stations, and they just worked perfectly. They were great. This is the one in Golden.
Yeah, probably the nicest charger location in all of Canada is the Golden Electrify Canada charging station. It has a gorgeous mountain view. It's just stunning.
And we got a lot of rain. Once we got past Revelstoke, we got a lot of rain. And going into Salmon Arm, it was with rain. And I was very happy to meet Buddy Boyd, who was in a Bolt 3 years ago. He went across the country, and he was one of the people that inspired me to join the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association, VEVA, which is your counterpart. Well, actually, it's sort of your counterpart in Vancouver. And there's a picture of Buddy, Kent, and I outside the Electrify Canada station in Salmon Arm. And at this point, we knew that we were going to make it to Victoria that night. And one thing I did have a miscalculation in the timing of my charging log. I really thought I would only be in Victoria on the Saturday, but I kind of messed up the timing, but it was to the good. And we actually gained a day because of my error that I thought, but I didn't really lose a day, but I mean, it just in my timing. And this was one of our good buddies from VEVA, Bruce Stout and his wife Susan, and they met us in Hope, where they treated us to a nice pie and coffee. And because of the ferry that we had to catch, and there was a big accident in the Trans-Canada Highway, we took a southern route around the accident, and we saved at least a half an hour to 40 minutes to make it to the ferry. I could have even missed their ferry. We took the 9 o'clock ferry from Tsawwassen, just south of Vancouver, into Schwartz Bay in Victoria. And then the next slide is probably making it to Mile Zero. There we are.
So what was the record? I'm assuming you met the record, and how long was it?
Well, there was no real record because that was set because nobody really attempted it because there was no high-speed charging in Newfoundland. There was 2 guys in a Tesla that went from Tsawwassen to Halifax, and they did that in 73 hours, which was amazing.
Trevor Page, who's in our club, yeah, he did that.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. But I thought it would be more significant to go from coast to coast, from kilometer 0 to mile 0, and to go across Newfoundland with only low-speed chargers. There's no way you could set a meaningful record. This was the first opportunity where Newfoundland had these high-speed chargers. So, and of course, making it all the way to mile 0. And we had to do 2 ferries, which was included in the time. And the time was 4 days, 18 hours, and 25 minutes, Amazing. Including the ferries and including the charging and including the wait times for the ferries and, of course, the disembarking times.
Yep. So the 9 years ago when we drove across the country, it was from mile 0 or kilometer 0 to mile 0. Same thing from St. John's to Victoria. So it took basically, 9 years to go from first generation EV charging to the second generation, and to actually have the second generation actually installed and relatively reliable. That's so this is an exact replica of the trip from 9
So
years.
for everybody, there's Harvey's website that I'm actually on now, and there's a lot more. I'll show you the screen here in a moment. There's a lot more available on that. So awesome. Let me just go back to, sorry. So there's the actual website. And where is this? This is where you were talking about the charging log, right, Harvey, right here?
The charging log is a little lower. Yeah, just right there, the charging log. Can you see it? It's up top.
Right here. Can't see my mouse. Route planner and charging log.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that should allow you to download the Excel sheet.
Okay, awesome. So just go through a few other questions here. This is probably going back when we were talking about free charging. Doug's asked, either one of you, do you really think that free charging is a motivator because electric travel is already a fraction of the cost of gas?
I would say it is not now, but it was, I would say, a long time ago, like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I mean, when Tesla was first putting out their Model S's, it included the free charging. So it definitely was an incentive to pay the money. Model S was expensive, and to get the free charging was a real added benefit. So I would say free charging at that time, I would say is a real incentive. Now, the incentive, I don't think you need to give away free charging. I really don't. There's a lot of benefits. The charging cost is incentive enough. I mean, it's half the price. If you're charging at home, it's probably a third the cost. The convenience of charging at home, if you're fortunate enough to be able to put a charger in at your own home, is so much more convenient than going to any gas station. When you're doing a long trip, if as all the owners that are on this site right now who are owning an EV are realizing that just a new way to power your car is to take, to plan it when you're doing another activity like eating or going to the bathroom on a longer trip. And the odd time it may be inconvenient where you didn't necessarily need to go for a meal or visit a family or doing an activity at a park or whatever where there's chargers. There might be a little bit of an inconvenience, but the benefit of driving an electric car, not just to say that you're doing your part in reducing greenhouse gases and being green, so to speak, but also the drive. I mean, the low cost of maintenance, but the biggest thing is that EV grin you get on your face when you power your car and you're accelerating quickly, passing somebody, the quiet ride, the handling, everything that is so much better than a gas or diesel ICE car. I mean, that benefit outweighs any minor inconvenience if you had to spend an extra 15 or 20 minutes to charge your car when you're just waiting around. But even then, you can answer an email, you can go for a quick walk, for some exercise, go to the bathroom, whatever it is. I mean, you just work your way around knowing that you're planning to charge by doing another activity. And of course, the best activity is plugging in at home and going to bed at night and waking up in the morning and your car's full. I mean, how much more benefit do you need in that?
I concur. And actually, Paul Fletcher is one of our on our executive team. He wants to also add something to that. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just marking that comment as answer.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Someone is asking, they normally travel from Niagara to Ottawa on a regular basis using Tesla chargers. In your mind, does it make sense, say in Ottawa, to look for other charging sources?
From my point of view, I mean, I don't have that option, but for a Tesla owner, I mean, I would say that they've put in their chargers in strategic areas where there is no inconvenience. However, it might be at times more convenient to use a charger that is not a Tesla charger, as long as you have the correct adapter.
Yeah.
So,
Electrify Canada stations, are super powerful, 150 kilowatt, as long as you have an adapter. I wouldn't recommend the CHAdeMO adapter, because that limits you to 50 kilowatts.
Well, unfortunately, that's the only one we can use right now, Harvey.
Okay, but eventually you'll be able to use an adapter that's CCS. CCS is available in Europe.
We think that's
Tesla
coming
owners.
here. We think that's coming here very shortly. They just haven't told us when.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
I will answer the question, because I know Harvey has a different perspective. I think everybody on this call has a different perspective regarding free charging, right? Because most people, you can charge 10 cents or you can give it to them for free. Free allows everyone to move towards that direction. If we would have had free EV charging 140 years ago, we would have had electric cars since then, right? So that was a main motivator for a lot of people to it's the main disruptor to get people to travel and to look at an electric vehicle and want to buy one. But most of the people on this call today can't afford to pay for high-speed charging, right? But high-speed chargers are going to blow up the grid if we all go high speed. We need to charge most of our charging at level 1 or level 2 charging. And the way to do that, to dispense that load across the grid, so that we don't need to increase the cost of all electricity, even for our toast in the morning, we do need to incentivize people to use level 2 charging and level 1 when they can. And if we do that, then the grid should be fine. But we got to be very careful that we don't just say, hey, we all want 5-minute charging and that's what we want, because everything, including our toast in the morning, is going to cost a lot more money. So, but there's a lot of people that don't have an electric car today that are excited about electric cars if they can travel for free. So it's very important to keep that movement going, right? Because not everyone could afford a $200,000 car. A decade ago, not everyone can afford a $100,000 car, but pretty much everybody on this call can afford to pay it. But to get everyone else, which is the majority of the vote, and we know it's political, but the majority of the vote, if they know that they can travel for free, they're gonna push on the electric vehicle front, which then reduces carbon emissions and solves climate change. But if we don't promote the free charging aspect of level 2, say, level 3, it's very difficult to give it away for free. But level 2, you can give it away at work, in municipalities, it makes sense to give it away. They spend money on economic development and tourism. Why not just give away a few kilowatts, right? So, we know it works, because otherwise those small, municipalities and businesses that installed chargers 9 years ago would be charging fees if they needed to. So we do know that it works. So it's important to attract those people, again, that can't afford electric cars, but to allow them to say, hey, you can travel for free, and to help disperse the demand on the grid. So it depends on the perspective, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Alistair's saying that he's read that the CCS1 adapter will be released now or shortly in South Korea. And it's only going to be available for 3 and Y initially. It can't be used on S and X, but when they do a compatibility analysis, information and release will be at a later date. It's $299. It's about $250, I guess, in Korean money. So I don't think we're too far away. I don't know what the holdup is, but someone else has also asked a question really to me, and unfortunately I can't really answer this directly, Louise. Louise has asked about our free supercharger credits that we got, as you mentioned earlier, with the referral codes, Kent, and that's going away shortly. They put a bit of an extension, and she's asking if we could help out in advocating for some sort of an extension for Canadian owners. I wish we could. I don't have Elon's ear. I don't have real senior management here. We do have management here locally in Canada, but I fear that we don't want a deaf ear at this particular point in time. There is a bit of a state of flux going on with the owners program. The chap that headed it up in the US has left, and there's some changes being made down there. So I really wish I could help you out, but I can't answer that anymore directly. What else we got here? So Lori Lee asked about the current adapter to purchase for a Tesla. The only one that's available right now is the Chatamo. Hopefully most of you are aware of this, but I don't know if you knew this, guys, but we have 6 Chatamos that we lend out here with the club, 2 in Eastern GTA and 2 in Western GTA here in Ontario, and 2 up in Ottawa. So that's the only actual adapter that's available for anything is the Chatamo, Lori Lee. And but as we said here earlier, we're hoping that the CCS will be available pretty soon. Stephen's really more of a comment, I guess. He worries about condo owners in older buildings and apartment renters with no EV chargers where they live. I think it's a big issue to getting these people to buy EVs. What can be done to get this issue addressed? Could you comment at all on that? Ken, is there anything we can do to help advocate for charging to be in older units and whatnot?
Well, number one, I think it should be illegal for condo boards to prevent EV charging, which they have been for a lot. The worst position that any EV owner was at was in the last decade was really in a condo. So it really needs to be addressed. They should at least be mandated by law to put 110 charging in every single stall of the condo. Worst case scenario. Hey, like in Ontario, it's not a big deal, and there is level 3 charging out there, but they can charge at level 1. Worst case scenario, better than. But if they're mandated by law, then all condos would at least do that, and that's really what the government needs to do.
Well, and it's certainly not a perfect solution, but I know definitely we have some members in this club who don't have chargers and live in condos, and because of the supercharger network and the fact that they've expanded it much more than we ever anticipated, it was originally meant to be on highways for long distance driving, and I think when they saw the number of Model 3 reservation holders, they decided, geez, we better accelerate this within cities. And they can now basically keep their car charged, just go once or twice a week to a local supercharger, and it's still pretty inexpensive. So,
right. The issue that's coming is the buses in say Toronto aren't 100% electrified. The garbage trucks aren't. The police cars aren't. The ambulances aren't. The fire trucks aren't. Level 3 in cities should start with all the first responders, the emergency services, and then we could go to sort of the luxury aspect of it, which is charging your car quickly. But if all condo owner or if all condos were mandated with at least level 1 in their charging spots and every charging spot, and there's no condo that can't put level 1 in every charging spot, right? Then that would take the load off the grid in these cities, which is very important. We don't want a ton of level 3 chargers being popped into cities for consumer use when level 1 charging would really take a lot of that pressure off the grid, because otherwise we're all going to be paying for it for everything we do.
Yeah, and it's not a perfect scenario, but I was just at a cottage, and my Model X, I was getting 5-6 kilometers an hour of charge. And if it's got to sit for a couple of days, you've got it right back where you need it to be. But it's certainly not a perfect scenario. We know that.
No, but it just if level 1's everywhere and the level 2's free to use, then it really will take take the huge pressure off level 3. So
yeah. And Daniel Kosh had just said, Daniel, I wasn't aware of this. Is this a permanent thing? He's saying that Chata was not available to purchase anymore. I know it's been off and on the store, but do we know that they've actually stopped selling it? If that's the case, that tells me that the CCS adapter must be imminent. Well, now Alistair's popped in and said it's back in the store. So conflicting reports back and forth. I think they sell it pretty quick. Alistair, I will say you've got an adapter on the chat. If anybody want to look at this, I think it's a CCS adapter that's supposed to work on a Tesla. But I think I'd be careful there. Some people have tested that and it's not worked very well. So if you want to lay out $750 when there's not the reliability maybe that you need. A few other questions that were submitted way back when people were signing up. What would you recommend? Is there a favorite third-party charging app that you used or would recommend?
Yeah, that's an easy one to answer, and that's PlugShare.
Okay. Definitive.
But one thing that because PlugShare allows for every charging network to be identified, and if you can also tailor it to eliminate or filter out certain other charging networks that, let's say, for example, if you want to eliminate level 2, you can, or if you want to, for my case, I would eliminate Tesla because I can't use Tesla. Mind you, I hear that's changing in Europe, and it slowly will be changing in China and North America as well. So that'll be great to have.
So you might not be aware of, Harvey, a lot of the HPWCs out there are hard power wall connectors with the level 2 charging system, and Tesla stopped doing that, but they had a program where they were putting tons and tons of these at hotels, and there's places in Toronto, I know anyhow, that have 30 and 40 HPWCs that they put in, and most installations now have a very small percentage. It looks like an HPWC, if you've ever seen it, it's like a gray or white charger with the light that flashes down, but it now has a J1772 in the end. So they do have, in some of their newer level 2 charging installations are putting some J1772s in there, and hopefully that shows in PlugShare.
Yeah, that was
it could very well be. But anyway, PlugShare was great. But once the other thing that's really I got to stress too are the apps for Petro-Canada are so easy to use, and for Electrify Canada the same. They identify where the Electrify Canada stations are, and PlugShare as well as the Petro-Canada app, and pretty much all the apps from every different charging network have their own apps. And it's also easy to keep track of your charges. It gives you the history of your charging. It gives you all the information that you need, how long it took to charge, and it also gives you that information while you're charging as well. So like where your car is at. So whether, like myself, I have an Audi app, which tells me through Audi what my car is charged at and what the performance is charging at, but so do the apps as well. So you can use which ones suit your needs as best you can. But if you had to choose one app, PlugShare by far. It's just amazing.
Harvey, have you found that totally reliable? Because somebody else commented here, their exact comment is, other than checking the not always reliable PlugShare, is there a way to tell the amperage of a J1772 and if it'll be 208 or 240 volt? Did you find that it pretty well always tells you what sort of charger is available? Like what the amperage?
Yeah, it identifies the type of charger, whether it's, well, first of all, they identify AC level 2 and DC level 3. So it's color coded right away on the map that tells you where all the chargers are. So it tells you in green, that's a level 2, and in orange in a level 3. It's so easy. And I know if I'm going on a long trip and I'm not staying overnight somewhere, I'm always looking for the level 3, always.
And Kent, didn't you have, isn't there a Sun Country Highway website anyhow? I don't know if you did an app or not, but it basically shows your network as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we've had a few of them, and just with the way things change, the engines behind the scenes, and now it's going to web-based type apps. But PlugShare, has been pretty good on that, and we've been working with different groups there, and we really just need to focus our attention. But we pushed a lot of ours into PlugShare. Because that's where the other ones were, and the decision is really focused on, hey, you know what, we need to make sure people can find all chargers, not just ours, and even though they, on PlugShare you can search for Sun Country only, you can toggle that out, and only Sun Country chargers pop up, or only free EV chargers pop up. But the 208 to 240. The 240 is really, typically residential or small business type charging. The 208 is typically large scale commercial, hotels, this sort of thing. Although there is some hotels at 240. The only really way to tell whether it's installed, because it's a level 2 charger installed at 208 or 240, is really to get on the charger and see how many kilowatts you're getting, and what the voltage is. Unless on PlugShare, sometimes they do make notes there that, hey, this is 240, woohoo, rather than say the 208. Yeah.
Okay, great. Someone asked, how's your Roadster doing?
Well, I did originally had 2 of them, right? So, we needed 2 for that trip because I needed a backup plan, because there was a lot of people that would have, globally, that would have, if the car went down, they would have said, hey, see, it doesn't, the electric vehicle infrastructure doesn't work. It's not, so that was sort of an issue of why we needed 2, on that trip. But yeah, it's, the Roadsters are still doing fine. There's a lot of battery issues, little things that need to be addressed, but for the most part, it was fine. It actually went into the Tesla shop, and they didn't charge it and it bricked the battery on me.
Wow.
So it was so not really cool, because it was totally fine going in, right? So, you know, but yeah. So anyway, that's just the breaks, I guess, you know, you can say. So you had mentioned there about the destination program before. So that Tesla destination program was what we lobbied Tesla to do, which was exactly our program. Go out there and slam in level 2 chargers all over the place. And then we helped them roll it out across North America. You know, that turned into thousands of chargers all across North America that were free to use, right? So those chargers are what helped made Tesla survive, as far as I'm concerned. Yep.
Awesome. Now, I'm not quite sure why we tried to avoid hand raising, but I'm just going to go ahead here. Well, Paul, what's the best way to handle here? There's 3 people that have asked to raise their hands for questions.
We can just allow them to talk, starting with Michael.
Okay, Michael, do you still have a question? Go ahead. Michael Sananzello? No? Okay. Richard Gain, go ahead, Richard.
No, I didn't have a question, actually. I'm not sure why you think I did, but if I did something I shouldn't have done, I'm sorry.
No worries. It just says raise hand beside your name. That's no worries. Also, Adam Deeves. Adam, did you have a question? No. Okay, no worries. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming on here. I know that you've had a flurry of activity on your social media and all your different interviews. And you've got another presentation after ours here, but we really appreciate your time. Very interesting. Kudos to you both, especially you, Harvey, as somebody that has done this sort of your own initiative and to get involved. I think really made a lot of sense. So we really appreciate you coming on. I know that some people might be wondering, why do we do this? It's not directly Tesla related, but certainly Kent's got a huge Tesla background. And I think all of us believe in the mission of sustainable transport. So anything that can be done to help, increase the availability of electric cars and charging in our country and across the world makes some sense. So really,
and Elon Musk is still a huge. I'm a huge fan of his. I mean, huge. And when I first started talking about electric vehicles and Elon Musk, I would go, like I said, I was a sales rep throughout BC and Alberta, and I would go to hotel, and 5 years ago I would ask the front desk clerk, and I'd say, have you ever heard of Elon Musk? And they would say no. Most people wouldn't even know who he was. And I say, well, in less than a year from now, you'll know who he is. Yeah. And I think I could clearly say, I think everybody in the world knows who Elon Musk is now.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more and more of people who perhaps have a second EV in their house. It might not always be a Tesla. Who knows? I mean, we're Tesla fans, we're Tesla fanatics. We promote the whole Tesla brand and everything. But I think we're going to see more and more. So again, kudos, guys. I really appreciate it. And Kent, I know that you've been working with Cornell behind the scenes on pulling this off. So we appreciate you could accommodate us on our dates. And it's probably worth maybe visiting, having you visit with us again sometime in the new year and talk about Sun Country Highway and some of your other experiences. So if you're agreeable to that, we'll maybe contact you in the new year about that.
Yeah, for sure, John. So the one thing I did want to say is the charity that Harvey's wife and Harvey's been promoting, and with the charity for this trip as well. There's a doctor out of BC. His name's Dr. Honey, and he basically educates doctors around the world, and they go out there and completely change people's lives. So it's an exponential benefit. So if anyone wants to take a look at Harvey's site there, that charity is there. And this thing, there's lots of charities, but this one here, makes a world of difference. It's pretty cool.
Okay, awesome. I'll just quickly show. Let's see if I can share my screen again here. Sorry, I got moved to the bottom. There you go. So there's the Marianne'sElectricDrive.com is the website, and all the information about their trip, and that charity is right here on the site. So again, guys, thanks very much. I just got 2 or 3 real quick housekeeping things. There's a couple of quick questions to do with our club. You're welcome to stay on or bail, whatever you'd like to do. But again, thank you very much. It was awesome to hear your adventures, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, and congrats for all of you people doing what you're doing. It's you're really you have no idea how much you're changing the world, but you truly are, and you'll run into experiences in the future where people will say, "Hey, you remember you did this?" No, I don't remember that. Well, you did, and I went out and I bought an electric car, and I convinced my family, and I went solar, and I did it today, right? So keep it up. It's a thankless job sometimes, but just keep it up, and you'll be very thankful that you did.
Great.
Yeah, and I just want to say a quick thank you to the Ontario Tesla Owners Association or Club to have Kent and I on tonight. So that was great. Thank you so much. And I also want to especially say thank you to Kent to be my co-pilot, because it was a dream come true for somebody of, what he's done for me and all electric vehicle owners in his network, to have him be my co-pilot. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anybody better, and I still would take him again on another trip.
Awesome.
But only if we go faster next time, Harvey.
Yeah.
Actually, there's questions for the club. There's only 3 or 4. And one of them you might be able to help us with, Kent. The question is, how do I get their Tesla to choose a Canadian route rather than traveling through the US?
Yeah, it's sort of difficult, and it's all automakers typically have their US office, and then they have their Canadian office. And a lot of the times the Canadian office doesn't have much control or power at all. A lot of the times the Canadian office doesn't know what's going on. So it's going to be very difficult, but I guess if you get lots of people, try a change.org campaign,
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I know that to get the Red Deer charger installed, because it connected Edmonton right out of the original rollout before anyone knew what was going on. I called the corporate office, and I threw out the F-bomb, and I said, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but this has got to go in. There's no F1 way about it. It's got to go in. So because it connects another 1 million people plus. So and they did. So, but because I had never used that language before, but ultimately I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying that sometimes if you need to get something through, I think if you can show them that you have lots of support for it, then they'll do it. Typically, they need so many cars in an area to roll out the supercharging network there. And you know what? They are looking at a global rollout, right? So we just have to be happy with what we have, and if people can get other adapters, then they can, again, you can charge at level 2, and most of that's for free. So it's not a bad backup plan, but take your time, enjoy the road, smell the roses. The problem with the high-speed level 3s is the fact that, it sort of pushes us back to the old days, well, I guess when we could fill up our car in 10 minutes, but when the original people started traveling across our network, the experiences they had will stick with them for the rest of their lives. And if we want to travel too fast, we're going to miss all those experiences, right? So there's something magical about those original, early days.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, real quick, there's no other questions that I'm aware of, other than 2 questions came through asking us about when we're going to get back together live in our live meetings. And we haven't decided that 100%. People are hoping that when we get back together live, we'll also do a hybrid version and do it on Zoom as well, because of course now that close to 1,000 people, we can, on Zoom, have people participate that live outside the GTA, which typically most of our meetings have been. So I will say that we are looking at when we're going to get back to live. We've been sort of holding off because of what's going on with COVID, obviously, and we're going to have a executive director meeting next week and talk about some of these things. But I can assure you that when we do go with some live meetings, we will we will figure out a way to do it live on Zoom. And of course, our meetings are always recorded. So this meeting will be recorded, or is being recorded, and will be edited and up on our website as well. So that will happen very soon. But that's all I got. If there's no more questions, again, I think Harvey's gone already, but Kent, thanks very much. And we will hopefully see you and talk to you again in 2022.
Right. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, John. I look forward to visiting down there, my old stomping grounds. And, I think the takeaway from this is just, look at Harvey, right? Here he was, the guy that, his wife died, he could have turtled, and yet he went out there and he did it anyway. And there's really, great messaging coming from that. And, he's helping to change the world, after the fact. And so just go out there, spread the word, and make a difference.
Be great. Okay, thanks everybody for attending. We appreciate it. So we'll end the session now, and look forward to talk to you soon in our session in November. Night, everybody.
Night.
Night.